So everybody, I'm so glad that you came out and joined us for this today. This is going to be something a little different than what we normally do. We're going to record this, and then I'm going to have it edited a little bit, and we'll post it up on on our Facebook page. And the reason for that is because I have no idea how this is going to go, and I want to be able to mitigate any train wrecks along the way. But the goal is to have some fun, read some sonnets, read some poems, read some stories, read anything that you feel is relevant. And what you would like to share with the group. It can be a classic Shakespeare sonnet. It could be one of his contemporaries. It could be a Spenser sonnet. It could be an Italian sonnet. It could be a poem that you wrote yourself. It could be something that's not even a sonnet at all. But what I would love to do is have everybody just kind of kick back, pour yourself a drink. When you want to applaud what everyone's done, clap just like in a jazz bar where they'd be doing a poetry reading, and let's just enjoy ourselves a little bit. Feel free to be quirky and zany. If this goes well, we'll try it again, even bigger and better for the summer sonnets. If you want to read something, what I'd ask is that in the group chat, you please write down what it is you'd like. We'll do it in the order that they've been posted. And I'll interject a few things along the way. So for those of you who have just tuned in and are going to be watching us when we post this video, welcome. We are Eventide Theater Company. We're a small little community theater based in the heart of Dennis Village with very, very big ideas. And with everything that's going on these days, we have decided to engage everybody who is watching with some of our regular Shakespearean readers and a few new faces. In what we are calling our Shakespeare Sonnet Slam. This is going to be the first of what I hope will be many. It's a little deviation from one of our front-to-back Shakespeare readings that we do. We'll be returning back to that format again next week with Coriolanus. And then we're going to discuss and we'll be taking recommendations for what we're going to be doing for our summer series, which we're going to be kicking off since Memorial Day is technically the official start of the summer season. That's when we're going to set our season. We're going to set it up for after Memorial Day. So we are looking for suggestions and people who want to participate. As always, we are always looking for readers. So if you're watching this video and you're saying, hey, I can do that, then by all means, come on and do it. We'd love to have you join us. So that being said, I just want to make sure, is that jazz music a little too loud in the background or is it doing all right?
Quite soft.
Nice.
Too soft? Did I hear that?
No, I said it's quite soft.
All right. So I think next time, once we've done this, if it works out well, next time we'll have everybody with cigarettes and berets and we'll all be jazzing it up. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. I have Toby, who is going to kick us off with Sonnet 37. So, Toby, take it away.
As a decrepit father takes delight to see his active child do deeds of youth, so I, made lame by fortune's dearest sprite, take all my comfort of thy worth and truth. For whether beauty, birth, or wealth, or wit, or any of these all, or more, entitled in their parts to crowned sit, I make my love engrafted to this store. So then I am not lame, poor, nor despised, whilst this shadow doth such substance give, that I in thy abundance am sufficed, and by a part of all thy glory live. Look what is best, that best I wish in thee. This wish I have, then 10 times happier me.
No, I think the music might have come up a bit too much there.
Yeah, I think it does too. It's a little distracting when you're reading.
Chris, you're muted. Chris is still muted.
There we go. How is that? Is that better?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, you may
Great
just
job.
need to mute. You may need to mute the music
Off.
when the reading goes.
All right.
Off might be the best choice.
Yeah. In between is good.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So, thank you for that. We have next up, Simon is going to be reading something from Wilfred Owen, an anthem for doomed youth, Sonnet 5.
Oh, actually, the Sonnet 5 is a separate reading. That's
Oh, I'm
W.H.
sorry,
Auden.
Sonnet 5, W.H. Auden. Okay, so let's go with the first one. Let's do Wilfred Owen, Anthem for Doomed Youth.
Absolutely. So Owen is my all-time favorite poet, the First World War poem. What passing bells for these who die as cattle? Only the monstrous anger of the guns, only the stuttering rifle's rapid rattle can patter out their hasty orisons. No mockeries now for them, no prayers nor bells, nor any voice of mourning save the choirs, the shrill, demented choirs of wailing shells, and bugles calling for them from sad shires. What candles may be held to speed them all? Not in the hands of boys, but in their eyes shall shine the holy glimmer of goodbyes. The pallor of girls' brows shall be their pall, their flowers, the tenderness of patient minds, and each slow dusk a drawing down of blinds.
So Simon, what made you pick that one?
It's a poem I've known since I was a kid in high school, and Owen for some reason always reached me, and I just love the use of language in it, and when you consider this is a guy that ended up dying 2 days before the armistice was signed in 1918, laying duckboards. His entire art was basically during the war, and he never got to see it realized. So just a powerful, powerful poet.
I think it speaks a little bit to what some folks are going through today, too.
Yeah.
So, did you want to do the second one now, or did you want to hold that one for a little bit?
I can hold and come back around.
All right. So let's go to Drew, who is going to be reading Sonnet 15.
That's right. William Shakespeare, Sonnet 15. When I consider everything that grows, holds in perfection but a little moment, that this huge stage presenteth naught but shows whereon the stars in secret influence comment. When I perceive that men as plants increase, cheered and checked even by the self-same sky, vaunt in their youthful sap, at height decrease, and wear their brave state out of memory. Then the conceit of this inconstant stay sets you, most rich in youth, before my sight, where wasteful time debateth with decay, to change your day of youth to sullied night, and all in war with time for love of you, as he takes from you, I engraft you new. Yeah.
Sorry, so Drew, why did you pick Sonnet 15?
Yes, when I began thinking of doing this, I realized I had only read the most famous of Shakespeare's sonnets. And I went through and I've read all these sonnets over the last few days, and I picked a few that I'd never heard before and to me seemed lesser known and that I liked. So there you go. That's it.
Nice. Awesome. We're going to go back over to Toby, who has registered with Sonnet 98. And then after that, I've got a little something I want to read for you guys.
Chris, I'm actually going to read 138 first.
Okay. Do you need to read them both together, or do you want to take them in a different order?
Oh, take them in a different order, definitely.
All right, go ahead. Let's go with 138.
When my love swears that she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies. That she might think me some untutored youth, unlearned in the world's false subtleties. thus vainly thinking that she thinks me young, although she knows my days are past the best. Simply I credit her false-speaking tongue. On both sides thus is simple truth suppressed. But wherefore says she not she is unjust? And wherefore say not I am old? Oh, love's best habit is in seeming trust, and age in love loves not to have years told. Therefore I lie with her, and she with me, and in our faults, by lies, we flattered be.
So now, Toby, you put them in a different order, but you were pretty adamant about wanting to do 138 first. How come?
That to me, I don't know. It just kind of speaks to me. There's something very human about that. There's something about, complimenting someone and recognizing the other person as not being totally true, but definitely being in love.
Excellent.
That's one of the ones that caught my eye that I had read first the other day and was considering reading on this too. Yeah.
All right. So I have some excerpts from a story that I found that I'd like to share with you. It is a article called "A Sonnet is Not a Martini: The Art of the Narrative Turn." Like the martini, the sonnet has been around long enough that it sometimes seems like everyone has her own version. Forget about the days with limited options, shaken or stirred, Petrarchian or Shakespearean. For quite a while now, even those features once deemed essential, 14 lines for instance, have been tested. A world in which you can order a martini without any gin is a bleak dystopian hellscape, but I feel more sanguine about our century's experimentation with the sonnet. The Curtal sonnets of Gerald Manley Hopkins struck me as brilliant, as do Robert Lowell's mostly unrhymed sonnets. I used to teach these, and my frustrated sonnets always have the same question. If you can do any of this, what makes a sonnet a sonnet? To my mind, there's still a clear answer: the turn. The turn is that moment in the sonnet between 8th and 9th lines in Petrarchian sonnet, the 12th and 13th for a Shakespearean, when something fundamental shifts. The description is necessarily general. That something fundamental could be the logical proposition put forward by the poem, the voice, the rhetorical mode or strategy, the scene described, the prosody, or nearly anything else. In rhymed sonnets, this shift is usually accompanied by an alteration of the rhyme scheme. A couple of sonnets by Edna St. Vincent Millay will illustrate the point nicely. Millay, who died in 1950, is one of the most underrated poets in English. To be sure, she wrote pages of schlock, but I'd put her best sonnets, and she wrote dozens of brilliant ones, against anything by Spenser or Shakespeare. We'll start with an old chestnut, sonnet 18. What lips my lips have kissed, and where and why, I have forgotten, and what arms have lain under my head till morning, but the rain is full of ghosts tonight that tap and sigh upon the glass and listen for reply. And in my heart there stirs a quiet pain for unremembered lads that not again will turn to me at midnight with a cry. Thus in the winter stands the lonely tree, nor knows what birds have vanished one by one, yet knows its boughs more silent than before. I cannot say what loves have come and gone. I only know what summer sang in me. A little while, that in me sings no more. The turn, even if it weren't indicated by the gap, is impossible to miss. I relish this poem because it has several turns. And there's an important lesson here for the writers of something such as epic fantasy. It's easy to think of a plot in terms of an undying and infuriating graph, the one that looks like a mountain peak, slow showing rising action, climax, and falling action. One of the many things that this chart leaves out, of course, is the possibility of a turn. And there are many stories that make do without a turn. It's possible to fight one orc on a page 1 or 10 orcs on page 10 when writing fantasy, all escalating in action but no turn. But these stories always, in my mind, fail. The problem is that our minds habituate too quickly to mere escalation. We adjust too readily to the simple addition of orcs. Plenty of films seem not to realize this, relying on faster car chases and more elaborate fight scenes to keep us engaged. Far more effective is a narrative turn. A turn can involve a change in point of view or narrative style, a shift in psychic distance, or a fundamental shake-up of the cast of characters. As with the sonnet, the possibilities are limitless. Go nuts. Just please, 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 please stop screwing around with my martinis.
All right.
So with that said, I'm going to go throw it back over to Drew for Sonnet 23.
Okay. Sonnet 23. As an unperfect actor on the stage, who with his fear is put besides his part, or some fierce thing replete with too much rage, whose strength's abundance weakens his own heart. So I, for fear of trust, forget to say the perfect ceremony of love's rite, and in my own love's strength seem to decay, o'ercharged with burden of my own love's might. Oh, let my books be then the eloquence and dumb presagers of my speaking breast, who plead for love and look for recompense more than that tongue that more hath more expressed. Oh, learn to read what silent love hath writ. To hear with eyes belongs to love's fine wit.
Right.
And now I've got Janet, who I know has been eagerly waiting to read. So Janet, you're going to give us some Sonnet 29, right?
That's right.
All right. Take it away.
Okay. When in disgrace with fortune in men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy, contented least. Yet, in these thoughts, myself almost despising, haply, I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings.
All right. Thanks.
It's interesting, Chris, what you said about the turn. You see that in so many of the sonnets. There's this one emotional drive, and then it changes a little bit.
Yep,
It's like a
completely.
really long-winded haiku. No, I like it. So Janet, tell me about your choice.
That's just one of my favorites.
Good one to lead off with.
Yeah, I just love that. It's so, to me, it's crystal clear. You know, I just love it. I'm a fan.
So we have a new face here that I believe, this is your first time. Is it Allison? Oh, you're muted.
They're muted.
I'm Amy. Yeah.
Amy. All right. All I see is A. Krause, so I wasn't sure if it was Amy or Allison. I was going to say, well, it would be really exciting if the musician was there. Amy, I'm glad to have you joining us. Thanks for being a part of this.
We had that mistake already.
Yeah.
Right. You've been misled.
So, Amy, you are going to read an Elizabeth Bishop sonnet. Or you're going to read Elizabeth Bishop's sonnet, which was written in 1979. Is that right?
Published in 1979, yes.
Published in 1979.
Yeah.
All right. Amy, take it away.
Okay. Caught, the bubble in the spirit level, a creature divided, and the compass needle wobbling and wavering, undecided. Freed, the broken thermometer's mercury running away, and the rainbow bird from the narrow bevel of the empty mirror, flying wherever it feels like gay.
Wow.
So what about that one spoke to you?
Well, I was just looking if poets that I remembered or who had impressed me in the past had written a sonnet. And she has, this was her last poem, and I thought that was kind of cool. And I liked the ordinariness of the moment. It wasn't like a very heavy set of lines. So.
All right, next up, we have Tim, who is joining us. Tim is going to share with us Sonnet 144.
Hold on a moment. And I will. My screen just went dark. There it is.
Maybe we will.
Two loves I have of comfort and despair, which like two spirits do suggest me still. The better angel is a man, right fair. The worser spirit, a woman, colored ill. To win me soon to hell, my female evil tempteth my better angel from my side, and would corrupt my saint to be a devil, wooing his purity with her foul pride. And whether that my angel be turned fiend, suspect I may, yet not directly tell, but being both from me, both to each friend, I guess one angel in another's hell. Yet this shall I never know, yet live in doubt, till my bad angel fires my good one out.
Woo.
That was awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Thank you. Oh, where am I? All right, there we are.
Well, you
All
got
right.
the dogs calling, so you did a good thing there.
Roof, roof, roof.
All right. So we are back to Simon, who is going to share with us Sonnet 5 by W.H. Auden.
Yeah, so Auden was a leader of the 1930s poets movement in Britain, and actually I didn't realize until I started looking into it, he published 2 complete books of sonnets. I never knew. And this one I liked because, you know, they're mostly sonnets are love poems, and then this one he's largely taking a satirical swing at himself and describing his own life in some respects as this perceived leader of the poetry movement. So it's from the series In Time of War. His carefree swagger was a fine invention. Life was too slow, too regular, too grave. With horse and sword he drew the girl's attention, a conquering hero, bountiful and brave, to whom teenagers looked for liberation. At his command they left behind their mothers. Their wits were sharpened by the long migration. His campfires taught them all the horde were brothers. Till what he came to do was done, unwanted, grown seedy, paunchy, pouchy, disappointed. He took to drink to screw his nerves to murder, or sat in offices and stole, boomed at his children about law and order, and hated life with heart and soul.
Wow. Nice. That's good.
Very.
Very good. Very good, Simon.
Thank you.
So I have a new reader who people in this group are probably not familiar with, but an old friend who has joined us from down in Florida. He is up and is going to read with us Sonnet 29. So Sky, everybody give a nice warm welcome to Sky. And Sky, if you would read Sonnet 29 for us.
It's actually not going to be Sonnet 29 because that was the one that Janet had done. I wasn't.
Did we already do it? We already did that one. So, okay. Yeah. What would you like to share with us?
I'm going to be doing Farther by Owen Shears.
Take it away.
I don't know if the day after Boxing Day has a name. But it was then we climbed the Skirret again, choosing the long way around, through the wood, simplified by snow, along the dry stone wall, its puzzle solved by moss, and out of the trees into that cleft of earth, split, they say, by a father's grief at the loss of his son to man. We stopped there, at an altar of rock, and rested, watching the dog shrink over the hill before continuing ourselves, finding the slope steeper than expected. A blade of wind from the east and the broken stone giving halfway up, and I turned to look at you, your bent head the color of the rocks, your breath reaching me short and sharp and solitary, and again I felt the tipping in the scales of us, the intersection of our ages. The dog returns, having caught nothing but his own tongue, and you are with me again. So together we climbed to the top and shared the shock of a country unrolled before us, the hedged fields breaking on the edge of Wales. Pulling a camera from my pocket, I placed it on the trig point and leant my cheek against the stone to find you in its frame, before joining you and waiting for the shutter's blink that would tell me I had caught this. The sky rubbed raw over the mountains, us standing on the edge of the world together against the view, and me reaching for some kind of purchase, or at least a shallow handhold in the thought that with every step apart, I'm another closer to you.
Nice.
Thank you. So at this point, we have some more readings, but I don't want to whip through everything so quickly. I kind of want to open it up for a little bit of discussion and kind of let you guys talk a little bit about what brought you here tonight. What made you want to come here and read a sonnet or share a story or be a part of this little group that we have out here, and just kind of what it means to you. Not just the poem that you chose, but the opportunity to hear all of these. So just kind of open it up to people. Kind of share with me your thoughts on what makes this special to you.
Chris, can I ask a question first?
Of course.
I was late getting here. I had trouble signing in. How do I sign up to do one?
You just put down whatever you want in the chat box.
In the where?
In the chat box. So there should be a button on there for chat, and if you touch that, it opens up the box, and you can just write down what you'd like to do.
Really?
Oh, there it is.
There.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So it's great because we've got 3 new faces with us tonight who have never been with us before. We've got some regulars who are back here. So again, you know, what about this sort of an event speaks to you? Go ahead. Don't have to wait. Raise your hand. Just go ahead and talk.
I can say I've been catching most of the drop-in Shakespeare, and there are so many wonderful voices. Some, you know, obviously very, very professional, very experienced voices, and I wanted to hear them. I love poetry too, yeah.
Well, Chris, to me, Sonnet 37 is very, am I unmuted? Yes. You can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
Yes, okay. Sonnet 37 to me is very special because I was the best man at my brother's wedding. And to give the best man speech, I wanted to find something from Shakespeare, which would really kind of encompass what I felt. And, you know, it took me a long time. And then I found that one, which has this supremely generous message at the end of it. Look to what is best, that best I wish for thee. This wish fulfilled, then 10 times happier me. And it just sort of encompassed, that's such a wonderful, wonderful emotional feeling to give to people.
I'm curious to hear from everyone else. What other thoughts do you have? Like, what is it about the poetry that maybe makes it stand out a little bit for you?
Well, certainly, I'll say, I mean, I've always adored poetry, and I don't know why, it's just something about it. So to hear the different people reading the sonnets or just other pieces is it's just a lot of fun. And, you know, it's sometimes when you go sit through a whole play, it can be tough to keep focused and kind of follow along always. And these sort of short bursts, maybe they appeal to my ADD mind, but it's long enough to enjoy without being so long that I start, you know, following texts and emails and things like that in the middle of them.
The thing about sonnets, though they have a character to them, you're not playing a character. It's an emotion. It's a nugget of an emotion that is universal. That anyone can speak from their own experience. The 29 was a sonnet I read at a funeral of an actor I'd worked with many years ago, and I was asked to do a reading at his funeral, and that's the reading I'd picked for him, and it felt very emotional for that instance. So that's
So Janet, you had the same sort of impulse that I did. It's a public ceremony, and you wanted to find something that was appropriate.
right.
You turned to Shakespeare and the sonnets.
Yep. It seems like a good place to go.
Mm-hmm.
If I may offer that poetry, let me start this way. Words are the closest thing we have to magic as human beings. We can take them in any combination. And if we hit the right combination, the right concoction, we can sway people's thinking. We can bring someone to tears. We can make people angry. And it's all through words. And poetry is the purest form of bringing out what is inside of us to the world. It's a moment in time that is caught. It's a moment, a fire in your brain that's caught and put down on paper for everybody to see and hear. That's what they are to me. So here, I get to hear poetry, and I get to read poetry, and I get to indulge in magic.
Wonderful. That's wonderful.
That's a great sentiment. I love that.
That was a poem, by the way. No.
Oh.
It could have been.
I guess so.
That's actually
like
a great segue, because James is actually looking to read a poem of his own. So I would love it if you would share that with us, and tell us a little bit about it, and then if you would share that with us, and then we can chat a little bit about that one too.
Okay, about a year ago, I was in the hospital for a few days, and so I belong to a poetry group. Once a month we meet and read our poems, talk about each other's poems, you know, and yeah, at Mutual Aid Society. So I wrote this after I'd been in the hospital, and I call it The Wanderer. He stood there at the bar with a corporophagic grin, drinking what he was bought for the story he would spin. An escapee from some ward, I saw the scene complete. The robe he wore was tied behind, green slippers on his feet. I stood him to a drink, proposing, "To your health," at which he chuckled deep, and drank as deep, and belched. I saw a tail waiting, like an indrawn breath that will be out, and waited while he wet his lips. The barman swirled his clout. You wonder at my garments, he at length began his tale. 'Tis truth I was in hospital, and not for once in jail. I had a spot of trouble. The ticker talk was broke. A crew of doctors gawped around to see if I would croak. And sure enough, the ticker, like some rundown, unwound clock, gave one last resigned tick, then gave it up and stopped. They hit me with electric, and they beat me front and side. But nothing they could do would do, and so I upped and died. The madman grinned. I gazed at him, gripped my brass knuckles tight. That he wasn't big, I cared not a fig. I know how loons can fight. But he was peaceful. His glass was empty. I nodded to the barman. He quaffed half off and wiped his lips, and then again began. Next thing I know, I'm standing at the top of the golden stair. St. Peter was bent over his book, his halo tangled in his hair. Mother's teaching came back to me, my heart filled with old longings. I stood there with my naked butt and bag of patients' belongings. At last I spoke. St. Peter? My toe would have dragged the dust, had there been any. Can I come in? St. Peter looked at me and cussed. Hell no, you can't come in. We've no place for such a sinner. You better go. Head down below. You might be in time for dinner. He laughed. A thunderclap. And then I fell and fell and fell. For how long, just reference Milton. At last I came to hell. Darkness visible. The flames were fierce. The moans were awful, a very dirge. I took a breath of sulphurous air and shouted for the concierge. And there he was, the cloven-footed, old Nick himself to take my booking. He was such a sight, so true to life. My jaw went slack as I stood looking. He touched the bell and cleared his throat, the very devil of discretion. I found my wits, asked for a room. He looked embarrassed, was my impression. Embarrassed but proud, an officious sort. He shifted from abashed to falsely hearty. We've got no room at all. We're expecting a big league party. The land here's used for the grand expansion. Hotels are built, and where there was a dump, an 18-hole golf course designed by Doak. We're ready for the family trump. And so I'm back. He raised his glass. He certainly was a happy ghost. So here's to the trumps who will fill up hell, and let's all join him in that toast.
I'll drink to that.
There you go.
Oh, that was a very deep, meaningful poem to you, I believe, and that's quite a journey. So I know you told us a little bit about it, but kind of what was going through your mind as you were writing it?
Well, you know, there's a whole section of the person who gets, you know, he can't go to hell, and he can't go to heaven, he can't go to hell, so he ends up wandering the earth, right? So there was that in there. But I was in, you know, I had a little weirdness going on with the heart and all, but I didn't die, actually. But anyway, and I like Robert Service, as you probably heard Robert Service's influence in there.
I did.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well, I think that a poem like that is a nice segue into something that I wanted to mention. As many of you probably already know, and if you're not aware, our community lost a very important pillar of the theatrical community around here. Henry Morlock passed away last week. And I don't know if it was unexpected, but it was certainly a surprise for people at how suddenly it came. I know he was not the best of health, but I don't think anybody anticipated it to happen the way that it did. He was a huge part of theater, especially in the Mid-Cape around here. He was, a staple over at Barnstable Comedy Club, and he was getting involved with us over at Eventide and helped provide some props for the most recent show and run sound for us sometimes. And it was just really just an all-around great, generous, giving guy. And I would like to read a poem in his honor before we move on. When to the sessions of sweet silent thought I summon up remembrances of things past, I sigh the lack of many a thing I sought, and with old woes new wail my dear time's waste. Then can I drown an eye unused to flow for precious friends hid in death's dateless night, and weep afresh love's long since cancelled woe, and moan the expense of many a vanished sight. Then can I grieve at grievances foregone, and heavily from woe to woe tell o'er the sad account of bemoaned moan, which I new pay as if not paid before. But if the while I think on thee, dear friend, all losses are restored, and sorrows end, let us keep him in our thoughts as we move forward and carry his energy, such a giving man and a generous man to our theater community. And I hope that generosity and that sense of giving and community support continue on in everything that we do. And I hope that it will. And I think that your participation in this is a sign of that. And I think Henry would be a great supporter of what we're doing. So thank you again for being a part of this, and thanks for supporting what we do. Let's move on. Janet, you're up next with Taken. Is it Taken by Me? Oh, I need you off mute. I can't hear you.
That was me answering someone who had wanted, your friend Sky had wanted Sonnet 29, and I said, I got it.
Okay, my mistake. So in that case, Marion, I'd like to go to you. If you'd like to do, we've got two here. You've got Sonnet 116 and Sonnet 130.
Let's see, yes. Hi, why don't I read 116, and then if somebody else wants to read.
Sure, we can save 130 and come back to it.
Okay. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with a remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is a star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved.
Thank you. Did you want to try 130 or you want to hold off for a little bit?
Okay, I'll do 130.
All right, so we'll go, so 130.
Yeah. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. Carl is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, why then her breasts are dun. If hair be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked, red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. And in some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. Yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare.
Hey, very good.
That was great. Thank you. So Marion, so share with us the same question I ask everybody else. You chose two very interesting sonnets. What made you choose those?
They're very rational. They're not exactly romantic. They're talking about how love can be reasonable and make sense. So
I like that. That's an interesting approach. Okay. We have Sky is back, and he is going to be reading for us Farther by Owen Shears.
Yep, that's actually the one that I already read. So,
oh, is that? Oh, see, I should be writing these down and checking them off. I'm just going through the chat box. Did you have another one you wanted to share with us, Sky?
No, we'll just go ahead. I think Sarah's up next.
Okay. All right. Then we will let Sarah, who is going to read Enough by Sarah Teasdale.
It's poetry to music. I hope y'all don't mind. It is enough for me by day to walk the same bright earth with him. Enough that over us by night the same great roof of stars is dim. I do not hope to bind the wind, nor set a fetter on the sea. It is enough. It is enough to feel his love. Like music over me. Oh, like music over me. Actually, a Sarah Teasdale set that was set to music many years ago, and I've known it since I was 18.
That was lovely. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Let's see. I've got Anna Marie wants to read some of her poetry. So Anna Marie, do you have some stuff ready to go?
I do.
Awesome. I can't wait. So for those of you who haven't worked with Anna Marie before, Anna Marie came in to one of our readings at Merchant of Venice with practically full makeup and hats and everything else, and she totally set a bar for us that I think for the next set of these we should try and challenge everybody to bring some costumes. See where we go.
Okay. Okay.
All right, Anna, go ahead, take it away.
I don't write romantic poetry, by the way. Oh. The day I found my mask wasn't there, I slid open the wardrobe door, reached in, and grasped nothing. The opening widened. Darkness was revealed. Empty shelves, empty hooks, empty space was all there was in my hand. I pushed aside unused coats. Nothing by the detritus of a form or self. Lifted the hat, strewn, abandoned on the upper shelf. Empty, except for the memories of hopes that decorated those brims. Stepping in to uncover the truth of the emptiness, taking right to action to go deeper into the core of this cave, determined as never before to find the masks that were once there, once and always right within my grasp. Finding, realizing, knowing that there is nothing there, I grieved. All the masks have been dropped. They've crumbled. They've dissolved. They've abandoned me. I grieved. I grieved. In grief, we do not wear masks. Unbelievable. What do I do without my masks? Will they recognize me? How will I know who I am when I look at myself in a mirror? Will the reflection recognize me? I turned and closed the door behind me, covered the mirrors, and walked out the door. Now I am invisible.
Are you going to share more with us as we go on?
Perhaps.
That would be great. I'd love
Some of
that.
them are political.
That's okay. And James, if you've got more that you want to share originally.
I have one more, very short.
I'm open for whatever you guys want to share. But first, we're going to go to Tim. Tim is going to read a riff on To Be or Not to Be by Jim Morrison.
We get unmuted here. So this is from one of Jim Morrison's chapbooks. This is Jim Morrison of The Doors, the noted rock star, shaman, poet, bipolar explorer. To be or not to be. Whether to be a great, cagey, perfumed beast, dying under the sweet patronage of kings, and exist like luxuriant flowers beneath the emblems of their strange empire, or by mere insouciant faith, slap them, call their cards, spit on fate, and cast hell to flames in usury. By dying nobly, we could exist like innocent trolls, propagate our revels, and give the finger to the gods in our private bedrooms. Let's rather, maybe, perhaps, get fucking out in the open, and by swelling, jubilantly, magnificently, end them. That's it.
Very cool. You know, it's so interesting how we are tuned as a society but to listen to poetry and listen to these things. And then when you hear somebody who throws in, you know, a word like fuck, how it just kind of is a record scratch, and you're kind of like, well, what did I just hear? And it really does draw your attention to it. Not that it's a bad thing. I think it's actually an awesome thing. It's, you know, those words have a great deal of power, but it was just interesting. I was listening to what you were saying. I was listening to the poem, and I was really going with the rhythm, and going, oh, this is really cool. This is really cool. And then it's just like a slap across the face, and like, here's your message. Pay attention.
That's the turn.
I loved it. I loved
Exactly.
it. It was great. It was great. But it always amazes me how, you know, a curse, how curses, when they're overused, you become desensitized. But a curse, when used effectively, can really punctuate a message or a point. It's pretty neat. So nice. Thanks, Tim. Karen, who's been waiting patiently, wants to read God's Grandeur by Gerald Manley Hopkins.
This has been a favorite of mine since 1964 when I was introduced to it. And it never seems to not be appropriate. The world is charged with the grandeur of God. It will flame out like shining from shook foil. It gathers to a greatness like the ooze of oil crushed. Why do men then not now wreck his rod? Generations have trod, and all is seared with trade, bleared, smeared with toil, and wears man's smudge and shares man's smell. The soil is bare now, nor can foot feel being shod. And for all this, nature is never spent. There lives the dearest freshness deep down things. And though the last lights off the black west went, oh, morning at the brown brink eastward springs, because the Holy Ghost over the bent world broods with warm breast and with bright wings.
All right.
Very cool.
I got a kick out of that.
So you told me it was one of your favorites since you were a young girl. What memories does that poem evoke for you? I'm really curious.
What memories does it have?
Yeah, well, I mean, you said it's something you're familiar with, and it's a favorite poem.
Well, I had to take a class when I was a freshman at BU in theater, and we had to do poetry, and this was one that we had to do, and it spoke to me because, you know, this whole seared with trade, bleared, smeared with toil, and man's smudge, and for all that, nature is never spent. You know, that it just speaks to me and spoke to me then and continues to.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Thanks.
I have something I want to read very briefly. It is a instruction on how to write a sonnet. How to write a sonnet. When writing a Shakespearean-style sonnet, there are various rules you need to keep in mind. This form of poetry is required to follow a specific format, including length, rhythm, and rhyme scheme. To write a sonnet properly, you follow this process. Select the subject to write your poem about. Shakespearean sonnets are traditionally grounded as love poems. Write your lines in iambic pentameter. Write in one of the various standard rhyme schemes, Shakespearean, Petrarchian, or Spenserian. Format the sonnet using 3 quatrains followed by 1 couplet. Compose your sonnet as an argument that builds up as it moves from one metaphor to the next. Ensure that your poem is exactly 14 lines. The Shakespearean rhyme scheme? Well, if you're writing the most familiar kind of sonnet, which is Shakespearean, the rhyme scheme is as follows. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G. Every A rhymes with A, every B rhymes with B, and so forth. You'll notice this type of sonnet consists of 3 quatrains, that is 4 consecutive lines of verse that make up a stanza, and 1 couplet, 2 consecutive rhyming lines of verse. But there's more to a sonnet than just the structure of it. A sonnet is also an argument. It builds up a certain way, and how it builds is related to its metaphors and how it moves from one metaphor to the next. In a Shakespearean sonnet, the argument builds like this. The first quatrain is an exposition of the main theme. The second quatrain, theme and metaphor extend. The third quatrain, peripetia, a twist or conflict, is often introduced by a but, very often leading the 9th line, and a couplet, which summarizes and leaves the reader with a new concluding image. And so far, the Shakespearean sonnet has done what it's promised it would. See how tightly this sonnet is written, how complex yet well organized it is, and now you know how to write a sonnet. Try writing one on your own. So with that said, we are actually going to break from sonnets, and I have Toby who wants to read For Whom the Bell Tolls by John Donne.
Okay. I have to find it. Yes, there we are. No man is an island entire of itself. Each is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clog be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thine own or of thine friends were. Each man's death diminishes me, for I am involved in mankind. Therefore, send not to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee.
And with that, we're going to transition over to Janet, who's going to do Auden Stop the Clocks.
Hello. I moved. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, we hear you.
Oh, good. I moved. I'm hoping you won't hear my son in the background. Stop all the clocks. Cut off the telephone. Prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone. Silence the pianos, and with muffled drum, bring out the coffin. Let the mourners come. Let airplanes circle mourning overhead, scribbling on the sky the message, he is dead. Put crepe bows on the white necks of the public doves. Let the traffic policemen wear black cotton gloves. He was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week and my Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. The stars are not wanted now. Put out every one. Pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. Pour away the ocean and sweep up the wood, for nothing now can ever come to any good.
It was very cheerful, Janet. Thank you.
Yeah. We all aspire to have a love that deep.
I appreciated it. I appreciate that. I did. I felt that.
Yeah, it's easy to feel that one.
I felt it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So James, you're up next with Pied Beauty, a short poem of your own writing.
Yes, this is very short. Pied Beauty. Glory be to God for appled things, for crusts of variegated browns, and ridges irregular as fertile ground, for smells that rise on silent wings and wake your sleeping nose, for ice cream snow white and flecked with incongruous black of vanilla bean, for coffee steaming in mottled mugs, for the companionship of the baker of pies.
Nice. And from that, we are going to jump to Simon, who is offered to read Autumn Journal 3 by Louis McNeice? Louis McNeice?
Louis McNeice.
Louis
Yeah,
McNeice.
I'm going back into the 1930s socialist poetry book again.
Oh, I love it. That's
Okay.
some of the best stuff. That is some of the best.
It is. And this one is, I just love the use of language in it. That's really the attraction to me about this piece is descriptions of everyday life. I just think are perfect. August is nearly over. The people back from holiday are tanned with blistered thumbs and a wallet of snaps and a little joie de vivre, which is contraband, whose stamina is enough to face the annual wait for the annual spree, whose memories are stamped with specks of sunshine like faded fleur-de-lis. Now the till and the typewriter call the fingers. The workman gathers his tools for the 8-hour day. After that, the solace of films or football pools, or of the gossip or cuddle, the moments of self-glory or self-indulgence, blinkers on the eyes of doubt. The blue smoke rising and the brown lace smoke sinking in the empty glass of stout. Most are acceptors, born and bred to harness and take things as they come. But some, refusing harness, are more who are refused it, would pray that another and a better kingdom come, which now is sketched in year or travestied in slogans, written in chalk or tar on stucco or plasterboard, but in time may find its body in men's bodies, its law and order in their hearts accord, where skill will no longer languish, nor energy be trammelled, to competition and graft. Exploited in subservience, but not allegiance, to an utterly lost and daft system that gives a few at fancy prices their fancy lives, while 99 in the 100 who never attend the banquet must wash the grease of ages off the knives. And now the tempter whispers, but you also have the slave owner's mind, would like to sleep on a mattress of easy profits, to snap your fingers or a whip and find servants or houris ready to wince and flatter, and build with their degradation your self-esteem. What you want is not a world of the free and function, but a niche at the top, the skimmings of the cream. And I answer that that is largely so, for habit makes me think victory for one implies another's defeat, that freedom means the power to order, and that in order to preserve the values dear to the elite must remain a few. It is so hard to imagine a world where the many would have their chance without a fall in the standard of intellectual living, and nothing left that the highbrow cared about, which fears must be suppressed. There is no reason for thinking that if you give a chance to people to think or live, the arts of thought or life will suffer and become rougher and not return more than you could ever give. And now I relapse to sleep, to dreams perhaps in reaction, where I shall play the gangster or the sheik, kill for the loving of the killing, make the world my sofa, unzip the women and insult the meek, which fantasies no doubt are due to my private history, matter for the analyst. But the final cure is not in his past dissecting fingers, but in the future of action, the will and fist of those who abhor the luxury of self-pity and prefer to risk a movement without being sure if movement would be better or worse in 100 years or 1,000 when their heart is pure. None of our hearts are pure. We always have mixed motives, are self-deceivers. But the worst of all, deceits is to murmur, Lord, I am not worthy, and, lying easy, turn your face to the wall. But may I cure that habit, look up and outwards, and may my feet follow my wider glance, first, no doubt, to stumble, then to walk with others, and in the end, with time and luck, to dance.
It was very
Incredibly,
timely.
Simon.
Thank you. Yeah, it's amazing how what is written in the 1930s rings true today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I love the common elements in it.
Yeah. McNeice is a horribly underrated poet because he gets overshadowed by Auden and C. Day Lewis and some of the others that are more famous.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, thank you for that. I've got Toby is up again with The Force That Through the Green Fuse Drives the Flower by Dylan Thomas. And he says, it's a nice ode to spring, Toby's note says. So Toby, why don't you take us away?
Yeah. The force that through the green fuse drives the flower drives my green age, that blasts the roots of trees is my destroyer. But I am dumb to tell the crooked rose, my youth is bent by the same wintry fever. The force that drives the water through the rocks drives my red blood, that dries the mouthing streams, turns mine to wax. And I am dumb to mouth unto my veins how at the mountain spring the same mouth sucks. The hand that whirls the water in the pool stirs the quicksand, that ropes the blowing wind, hauls my shroud sail. And I am dumb to tell the hanging man how of my clay is made the hangman's line. The lips of time leach to the fountainhead. Love drips and gathers, but the fallen blood shall calm her sores. And I am dumb to tell the weather's wind how time has tricked a heaven round the stars. And I am dumb to tell the lover's tomb how at my sheet goes the same crooked worm.
So aside from the fact that you said it was a nice ode to spring, what made you settle on that one if you were looking for a brighter poem?
It's something I always remember every spring, and it's that first line, that the force that through the green fuse drives the flower. And that to me is just, I love to read that every spring because it just gives the sense of energy reawakening.
Wonderful. So Janet, Janet's note is next in line. It says, I have to run and feed the family. I love you all. So everybody, she wishes us well. For a second, I was going to say, that's an interesting poem. But that means that I have Tim up next. And Tim has said he'd like to read one of his own. And I didn't know we had so many aspiring poets in the crowd. So
hi there. Can I ask you to skip to the next person? My dogs are going wild in the next room, and they're about to calm down. She's correcting them.
Sure. You just let me know when you're ready.
Next time.
All right. That brings it back up to James.
Okay. All right. You know, my dog's pretty quiet. She's old. She's almost 15. This one is When You Walked In. When you walked in, the door sang on its hinges. The window watched wide-eyed. The laps of the chairs yearned for you. The table cleared a space for you, and the carpet laid itself at your feet. The refrigerator moaned, its cold heart overwarmed. The taps stopped to drink in your image. The heater hummed the ode to joy, and the lights thought it right to shine on only you. The bed threw off its covers and bared its sheets. The air held its breath.
That was lovely. That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
So let's see. So
Dogs are good.
All right.
Dogs are good.
All right, then take us away, Tim.
The song starts with a syncopated guitar riff, an introduction to the man and his mood. It's a strange sound for a rock guitarist. It's older somehow, classic, timeless. Then comes the lyric, the let me set the stage exposition that pulls you right into some love-struck Romeo's story. He's laying it bare, his hopes, his dreams, his love. He's in that place where every emotion is raw, fully realized, and complete. He's singing about a girl. The singer drives into the rhyme, feeling every sharp pang. There's something in his voice that is visceral, an incantation, a drawing in of kindred spirits. Do you know this pain? He seems to ask me. Knowing that the pounding rhythm of the sixth string is painting the picture even more than the words. But the lyrics, they are a book of a life that didn't pan out, a deal that went bad, a love affair that had no place or time to blossom. I get sucked in. I make connections to my own life, my own experience, my own Juliet. I sing the chorus like I wrote it, a jilted lover trying to find the magic words to bring her back to that place, that somewhere. I feel every stabbing betrayal again, and I invent new ones to keep the story fresh. We're angry, he and I, a pair of love-busted street buskers, hustling songs in the dark because we crapped out in the biggest game of our lives, and there she goes, living her life without us. Yet while I'm railing on about pretty strangers taking my place, he's on to something bigger. He's reconciled the pain and replaced it with forgiveness, a wisdom that is granted only to those fortunate enough to bet it all on love, only to have it blow up in their face. She's long gone now. Maybe an acquaintance at best. Maybe just a phone number in his wallet. But once, she cried when they made love. An explosion in his heart that was bigger than any act of betrayal. There's a place for us. I know you know this song, he says. And I do. Like the stars above, I know every note and every twisted, cathartic lesson. I just listen as he reminds me that there is a place for us, somewhere. And that's when I turn that fucking song off.
All right. So I don't have anybody else who's listed anything to read. So I have one, the last one that Toby kind of banked. I want to go back to that one to close out, which would be Sonnet 98. But before you okay with that, Toby?
Yep.
Okay, but before we do that, I want to do a little sonnet Mad Lib with everybody. So I have an option here. I want to know, do we want to do a poem about love or hate?
I want to do a poem about love.
Do a poem about love?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then I need a noun. First person who can give me a noun.
Gloom. Oh, well, no.
What was it? Glue?
Yeah, no. It was gloom, but that doesn't have anything to do with love.
Okay.
What was yours, Toby?
Flower.
Flower. All right. So, and I need 3 aspects of that noun. Something like eyes, teeth, obviously you're the flower, that would be what?
Petals. Stamen and stem.
Stamen and stem.
Stem.
Blossom. Blossom.
Petal or blossom?
Well, petal and blossom, blossom, I think.
All right.
How about nectar?
Well, all right, let me see here. So I only need 3. So let me do that. Okay, now I need 3 verbs that describe things the object of the poem does. So I need 3 verbs that describe things the flower does.
Can we have personification?
Sure. I don't know if it'll work, but let's find out.
Dance.
Dance.
Mm-hmm.
Pollinate.
What was the other one?
Pollinate.
Pollinate.
Smell.
Droop.
Ooh.
All right, and then I need some adjectives. Big, splendid, glorious, something like that.
Verdant.
Oh, God.
Flaming.
Petite.
Oh, those are good ones.
Magnificent.
Delicious.
What was that one, James?
Delicious.
Yes, blendiferous. And one more.
Petite.
Sure. All right. right, so those are my adjectives. And then I need a month of the year.
The flower's July.
Let's see how this works. And
it's another poem about darling buds of May.
So here it is. Ode to the Flower, a sonnet by the Eventide Readers. My meat flower, you inspire me to write how I love the way you smell and dance, invading my mind day and through the night, always dreaming about the annuity in advance. Let me compare you to a verdant lie. You are more gleamy and more loquacious. Small drought dies the bright picnics of July, and summertime has the great Horatius. How I love you, let me count the ways. I love your petite nectar and blossom. Thinking of your stamen and stem fills my days. My love for you is the vicious wassail. Now I must away with a beaming heart. Remember my green words whilst we part. So if you guys are interested in how to do that and want to do it on your own, there's a website called the Poem Generator. It's basically just plug it in. You can write your own sonnet.
Sinfully sensuous.
With that, I would like to turn it over to Toby to close us out with Sonnet 98.
Okay. From you I have been absent in the spring, when proud-pied April, dressed in all his trim, hath put a spirit of youth in everything, that heavy Saturn laughed and leaped with him. Yet nor lays of birds, nor the sweet smell of different flowers in odor and hue, could make me any summer's story tell, or from their proud lap pluck them where they grew. Nor did I wonder at the lily's white, nor praise the deep vermilion in the rose. There were but sweet, but figures of delight, drawn after you, you pattern of all those. Yet seemed it winter still, and you away, as with your shadow I with these did play.
Awesome. Thank you, Toby. Thank you, everybody, for playing with us tonight and having a little bit of fun. This was a really fun experiment. I would love to bring this back again next time around with an even bigger crowd and more readers. Please keep some more sonnets in mind. If you liked ones you heard and you want to give your own spin on them, put them in your back pocket and bring them back. If you want another crack at one you've already read, same. If there's something that you've wanted to read and haven't had a chance to, there's always an opportunity. We'll bring this back again sometime in another probably about 2 months. We'll be able to do it again. And I think great. Thanks for taking part in this little experiment. For those of you who are watching our video, thank you so much for supporting everything that we do. And we'll see you again next week as we go back to our reading format for Coriolanus. Rolls will be posted at 5 o'clock. Keep your finger on that button if there's a roll you want, because they go quickly. And you can join us as a reader, or you can sit back and enjoy the broadcast of that reading at 6 o'clock. I hope to see you in either capacity. And everybody else, thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you,
Bye,
Chris.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
What's the weather next week?
Thank you, Chris.
Coriolanus.